Dear human being, beloved soul, I welcome you to my podcast series, Conversations with the Universe. After a near-death experience, my perception of our human existence changed profoundly. I became more sensitive, with all our known senses. I feel more intensely, see people with different eyes, and often take a different perspective on life and our challenges. In my books, I share these altered perspectives and all the knowledge that has flowed through me since my near death and thus record it. For all those who are searching for something more, for the meaning of our existence here on Mother Earth. And it is now a great pleasure for me to share this knowledge with you in this way as a supplement to my books. This season I am dedicating myself to my very first work, the basics of being. I wish you many wonderful insights on your path. Thank you. Love.
Is there such a thing as fate? Is a person's path predetermined? My answer to this is a very definite yes. The laws of this world, the connections between the energy zones and the sum of all your experiences from many, many incarnations, do not allow things to just happen. Something is a coincidence for you as long as you don't know the laws behind it. And in principle, this also applies to miracles. So-called miracles are only miracles as long as people have not recognized and understood the law behind them. A long time ago, for example, just a lightning strike was already a god because people did not understand how lightning occurs. Generally speaking, people tend to declare everything they cannot explain as a miracle, but it is just a natural phenomenon. And that is the case with everything else that we still do not understand today. There are laws whose background and cause we simply do not yet know. But back to fate. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens without a legal basis behind it. At best, this makes it even predictable. In the worst case, it seems like chains that you cannot escape. But please do not forget. You decide how you see the world. I myself find it reassuring to know that the laws of nature are reliable. So every second, every moment in your life happens because of a sequence of laws. We just have to know them. Let's delve a little deeper into the subject. The day you are born is by no means just any day. It is exactly the right day for your soul energy to come here into matter. And here we are, back to the vibrations that make up the cosmos. Because these are also the reason why each day on the linear timeline of our plane of existence has its own vibration. From a cosmic point of view, a day is a snapshot of the positions of many planets and their vibrational fields in relation to each other. This interaction of billions of planets with their own frequencies creates a very specific new community frequency. Resonance fields arise in which harmonizing vibrational fields attract each other, and non-resonating fields repel each other. You yourself are energy and vibrate at your very own frequency, and you are part of an energy world that is, of course, also connected to the Earth and its vibrational field. The Earth, with its frequency, is also integrated into the action and reaction of all the other worlds and planets, spiritually and materially. So the Earth is a mirror for the cosmic moment in the now on the time level of matter, and, at the same time, an indicator for the subtle impulses from other worlds. The law of resistance, which I will explain to you in more detail later, is the basis for some frequencies complementing each other and some repelling each other. And since all forms of matter consist of vibrational fields, their frequencies decide what, how, and when something happens here with and in the coarse material matter. At the end of an endlessly long chain of subtle laws, impulses, and impulse givers, all this is expressed in gross matter. Planets, too, are an expression of subtle energies and therefore vibrate at their own frequency. Let's go back to the topic of birth. Let's assume, to make it easier to visualize, that your energy shimmers violet, and on any given day, the Earth vibrates in yellow. Let's assume that violet and yellow do not harmonize. So you will not be able to come to Earth on that day. Only when the frequency of the Earth vibrates in harmony with your frequency is the gate ready. This in turn means that the day you were born was no coincidence, but rather the right day for your earthly incarnation due to a sequence of very specific laws. And in the continuation of this thought, it means that if we know the vibration of the earth on that day, we will learn a little more about who you are, simply because we can deduce this from the law of resonance. Everything is energy, and the earth is also part of this energy, so it is always in resonance with everything. The people on earth are embedded in the cosmic energies and the earth's frequencies, creating yet another field of their own, always in action and reaction, as a source of impulses and a receiver, as creation and dissolution. Before your birth, you were only part of the energy worlds as energy, but the frequencies of the earth, and consequently of the whole cosmos, are always just as existent as the earth itself. Your soul, your energy, reacts with all these frequencies. They overlap or repel each other. And at a certain moment in the cosmos, all components harmonize so that you can incarnate on earth without energy resistance. So if we know the day of your descent, we know the vibration of the day, so we know the vibration of the cosmos. If we know this, we experience who you are because you resonated with it. As in the big, so in the small. The numbers, for example, are a way of translating vibrational fields, and that in turn helps to recognize better, via the date of the respective day, where you come from and which frequency family you belong to. Because a certain frequency family, I'll call it that for now, only includes a certain possibility. And this comprehensible possibility means that you can find out who you are because you can understand where you come from, which frequency family you come from, and how it vibrates. And so it goes on and on, throughout life, every day and every decision. Only people's unconsciousness represents a dangerous component in this law, because as long as people live unconsciously in these laws, they do not recognize the potential in them at all. Then despair, hopelessness, powerlessness, and unkindness are the order of the day. And then life is torture. But it doesn't have to be that way. Learn the laws and play life. It's that simple. But let's go back to the question of whether there is a prescribed destiny. To answer this question, I would first like to state a formula. Destiny is the sum of chance, potential, and consciousness. Chance plus potential times consciousness equals destiny. The fate formula is therefore a mixture of 3 different components. Opportunities arise when the following laws are at work. The law of resistance, which is either working or not working. The law of action and reaction, i.e., the law of resonance. The law of rhythm in duality. The laws of the environment. The laws of the power of the masses. See chapter, The Laws of Being, in which you live. The laws of nature. The cosmic realities, time and space, as well as the laws of the energy worlds, all of which are in effect and always interconnected. All these factors create the so-called opportunities in your life. Every person is unique. A very specific potential of power lives in him, and this power wants to be realized, to unfold. It wants to be. This power is like a muscle that has been developed and trained over many incarnations on different planets. You remember the chapter about purity. The power of energy is strongly tied to purity, and thus directly to the connection. Imagine the connection to your mother soul, which I will discuss in more detail later, as an energy conduit through which more energy can flow in a purified state. That is the potential of your energy. This potential is the sum of your experiences and memories, of your ability to purify yourself again and again, and of the state of consciousness you have already achieved on this path. To better describe the diversity of the potential of each living being, I like to use this example. Similar to how light bulbs can have different wattages, the power potential of people can vary. There are 20-watt bulbs. Then there are those with 40, 60, 75, and 100 watts. I often meet people with a potential for strength similar to that of a 20-watt bulb, but who unfortunately do not even use these 20 watts to their full potential. These people do not have as much strength as a 100-watt bulb, for example, but they do have strength. And this strength needs to be utilized, nurtured, and perhaps even increased in the best possible way. Because even 20-watt bulbs can shine very brightly and be a light to others. On the other hand, a 100-watt bulb can burn up, burn, and completely exhaust itself. But even that would not change its power potential. It would only inhibit the realization of the potential for the time being. Goethe already summed it up simply and clearly in Faust. You are what you are in the end. By that, he meant the potential that resides in you, your power potential, which is crucial for everything in your entire being, in life and also in the afterlife. Your free will is directly dependent on this power. The greater the power, the stronger your will can be. So it is entirely up to you whether you live your full potential or not. And next, the opportunities to be recognized and the potential to be expanded depend on whether you use them consciously or unconsciously. That is why consciousness is a crucial factor in this formula, because it is actually possible on this planet to live a life without being aware of these things. Not to be or not to be, but to be consciously or unconsciously. That is the question here. You experience opportunities unconsciously. You have potential and use it to a greater or lesser extent unconsciously. And now it becomes quite crucial. Do you unconsciously let yourself drift in your life by all these circumstances, potentials and possibilities, or do you consciously perceive them and thus conjure up your destiny? And that is why it is not an addition that we apply at this point in the formula, but a multiplication. Because the degree of your consciousness increases your chances and your potential many times over. Only your consciousness decides what you perceive and how. But I don't want to forget to mention that there are additional laws that extend beyond your present life and are also part of your entire being. This is because you have a very specific life plan. That is, a goal that your soul has set itself and that it wants to experience in this incarnation. This goal represents the so-called keynote in the infinite scale of the process of dying and becoming, and your soul will never lose sight of this goal. It is the basic direction of the soul's journey. An alert, clear energy has a different starting point in life than one that is still very unconscious and foggy experiences. Even if all people have to dive through the veil of forgetting, a spirit that is already very awake will become aware of itself more quickly, and thus be able to work and act more powerfully in the material world than a spirit that is still very unconscious and heavily polluted. You are the sum of all your experiences of past incarnations, plus the goal you want to achieve in this incarnation. Fate is therefore the sequence of laws by which you can make use of your potential and the degree of your consciousness, your potential. As long as you feel that you are being buffeted and pushed around by fate and living an unhappy, powerless life, you are living in a complete illusion, namely, in the illusion of powerlessness, separated from your many talents, opportunities, possibilities, and gifts that this life offers you. Over and over again, and to everyone. Let's take a natural disaster as an example of such an alleged experience of powerlessness. Natural disasters happen due to the laws of nature, which I have listed under opportunities. The natural disaster is the way it is on that day and in that place due to various components. And even this disaster is connected to the cosmic laws, so it is only a reaction to another, higher level action. The person who is in this place on this day is not there by pure chance either. His decisions, his impulses, his consciousness, and his energy are all part of the path that brought him to this place on this day. So these many components interact and determine the fate of each individual. If a person would not live life separately from himself, he would experience impulses within himself that would have steered him onto a different path, and thus possibly to a different place at this time. But even that only if the life plan of the individual has so intended. However, I do not want to appear disrespectful of the decision of each individual, because no matter what crosses you on this path, beautiful and not so beautiful, only you can react to it. So a natural disaster can be part of your path that brings you very specific experiences that you would not have had without the disaster. I want to encourage you to interpret the signs within yourself more consciously, and thus also the signs of nature, in order to react differently to them. The more conscious a person is, the more strength they have, the more alert their senses and their entire activity in the material world. The sum of your vigilance, therefore, also has a decisive effect on your fateful encounters. And so, it can happen that you always end up in the right place at the right time. Here, too, it is the gate, our heart, that receives and passes on the impulses and can thus become the most reliable partner in all the hodgepodge of laws, facts, circumstances, potentials, and forces. Therefore, keep your heart open. It will reveal the right things to you on its own. So let me summarize. Know who you are, then you will recognize your goal. Recognize your goal, then you will recognize the opportunities to achieve this goal. Know yourself, then you know your potential. Your potential allows you to unfold your consciousness even further and more alertly. That is the gift of life. Thank you again for listening, and I look forward to our next session. Carpe Vitam. Thank you very much for listening, and I would like to remind you to join our community Spine. We are a community that wants to help you live a healthier life, practice your spirituality, and expand your consciousness. We help you find and connect with healers around the world, and we help you give your life a new meaning in different ways. We are Spine, connections that help.